What is up, people? It is Dave. It is Duncan.
Oh, hello.
Back in 2023 for another album review.
It's not going to work. Like, the beauty of it is there should only maybe be a handful of videos with a Christmas tree in the background, recorded at the start of December.
Yeah. Like, let's not.
Listen, the
Let's not
problem
ruin the facade here, Duncan.
Right, here's the problem, right?
2023. Look at my tan.
We're all like shiny, happy people holding hands at the start of these recordings here. For all you know, something fucking horrible happened on January 1st. And then, like, the world, the economies of the world has collapsed, everything else, everyone's in misery, and then we're like, hey, hi everyone, 2023, what a great year it's been so far. You never date your videos that way by projecting it in the future. Just acknowledge it up front. We're recording this at the start of December, right? This is us getting ahead of next year.
COVID's back.
You joke about it, but we could very well all be fucked, right? So anyway, right, with that out the way, Dave. What story, what narrative are we weaving today on this recording?
Well, Duncan, for this review, we're checking out the new album from French post-metal crew Death Engine.
There's absolutely no way to tell that this band is French. The production did not give it away at all, Dave.
See what you did there. The band's new album, Ocean, will be released on January 13th via Code Records and Throatruiner Records.
Oh, what a name!
That's right. Formed in Lorient in 2012, Death Engine have quickly established themselves as a strong underdog of the French
Death Edging. So you said Death Engine? I was like, oh Jesus Christ. Could you imagine?
It's like extreme edging.
Yeah, I'm sorry your
Death
husband
edging.
died of extreme edging. His heart gave out on him just before he popped. Once you pop, the fun apparently does stop, Dave, because you're dead. So there we are.
Death Edging. Death Engine. A strong underground of the French scene, affirming their identity from their very first EP, Amen. An impulsive, I'm not just saying Amen, Amen was the name of the EP.
I know, 'cause I tried to find the artwork for this via the player that I use, Apple, and it brought up the wrong cover. It brought me up Amen. And I was like, that's not right at all, so I had to fix it. Okay,
that's their first EP. And then impulsive live shows also played with constant tension. The two albums followed, 2015's Mud and 2018's Place Noir, and that allowed the band to play across all Western Europe, from dive bars to Hellfest. After a short break and 2 years of work, the band returned with a new album, Ocean, and a lineup entirely revamped around guitarist-vocalist Mikhail. The album was recorded and mixed by Gwen Kerjian at Slab Sound Studio in France.
Authentic.
With drums tracked and recorded by Jordis Saidani at the Impure in France. The album was mastered by Alan Douches. I've now learned how to say his name.
Oh, yay! Well done, Dave. Right, now
research.
Fix the 17 videos that we've done where you pronounce it wrong. Go and fix it in post.
I just go through different variations of it throughout the review. So yeah, he mastered it at West Side Music. So, album number 3 from Death Engine. One of my picks for November's The Buried Underground feature that we ran on the website in November.
Yep.
And
were these guys on your radar then, or is this
no?
Right,
they're not.
Cool.
I got an email with the new single, or the first single. It's called Lead in Silence, and I watched the video and I was like, what is this? I was just like, this. When I was watching it, I was like, this kind of makes me wish I was still in a band, because it's just the four guys in a room just throwing their guitars around, and I was like, oh, this big giant wall of post-metal goodness, and I was like, wow, that's fucking awesome.
Because I'll be honest, like about like a minute and a half into this, I was very much like, right, I understand why Dave's picked this, and it would also not surprise me if they had like 7 really obscure albums been a fan of and just not told them.
No,
So-
no, I hadn't, I hadn't heard them. I did go back and listen to the two previous albums.
Cool.
But I was quite surprised to hear where they've come from stylistically. The post-metal thing was there in small quantities, but it wasn't the main kind of part of their sound.
Yeah.
The early work is far more dissonant, with a much bigger streak of hardcore and almost kind of noise rock running through it. Very chaotic, very kind of explosive. This new album is still explosive, but in a kind of different way. Firstly, this is a much heavier album than Mud or Place Noir. The riffs they've just been dialed up to 10 on this one. Like there's still a bit of that kind of like hardcore fury at times, but pacing wise and rhythmically, this falls far more into the post-metal territory. This is an album that seems to be, anyway, it's more focused on the kind of momentum and the groove of each track, rather than hitting you with lots of like chaotic ideas. And then
Post-metal then.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
This feels more planned. It's like the last couple of albums you listened to them, I was like, you were kind of picking up the pieces, like, what the fuck did I just listen to? But this, yeah, definitely more focused and more planned than this one. They take their time a lot more on this album. They let the songs breathe, they give them space, and just kind of time to build naturally into something kind of colossal. Tracks like Pulled Down or Mess or Dying Alone,
Yes.
they give you that kind of really like that post-metal kind of range of dynamics and atmosphere that really just kind of pulls you in and makes you feel very immersed in the sound. And it was that kind of feel. I was getting that feeling where, like, when you listen to like Cult of Luna or The Ocean, that type of feeling, they paint a really like good picture with their music. It feels developed and more like a movement. And I get a lot of that from this album. These songs just felt like they had way more depth than what I'd heard on the previous two albums. And I was just really kind of drawn to that sound. I love a sound that kind of like pushes the confines and it's not afraid to give you a little bit more of the kind of indirect stuff as well. I thought Pulled Down was a really good example of that, where not only did they give you some really cool, almost kind of like emotional melodies musically and vocally.
Almost sounded a bit synthetic as well. I don't know if it's put through an effect or something. It kind of almost vocoder-esque but less robot-y.
Yeah, I know what you mean. They also made it kind of catchy though at the same time.
100%. Yeah, it's melodic as fuck. Yeah,
and that's something that you often you maybe don't get done to this level with post-metal. I think there's a lot of good post-metal bands out there that are great at the really like dense, heavy stuff, but like often they can't quite hit the mark when it comes to like the melody. But I thought Death Engine really nailed it. Same with Dying Alone. It's more melodic but also very kind of melancholic at the same time. I loved the almost a kind of like new wave kind of vocal style. It's got like a kind of post-punk type texture to it. It gave the track another kind of level of depth that I wasn't really expecting. But they also give you tracks that just hit you like a ton of bricks from the outset. If the kind of immersive, like slow burn kind of build up stuff, if that's not your thing, then tracks like Hyperion or Leaden Silence or Lack will satisfy your appetite for something with a bit more of that kind of like just kind of blunt force trauma. And I suppose
bass sound, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know who their bass player is. I don't know who produced their bass, and I don't know what he's using. But it sounds like some bass strings like stringed over a large granite slab. Is that fucking? It's so that's why I was joking about like French production. French production always leans and accentuates the bass. It's kind of why I fucking love it.
Yeah,
there's accentuating it, and then there's just making it like a lethal fucking weapon. Like it really, every time it came in, I was just like, "Fuck's sake!"
Yeah,
like just disgusted at it.
Yeah, absolutely thick. And those tracks, there's also they get a little bit of the combination going in those tracks. There's a little bit of that kind of hardcore venom starts to kind of seep in that dominated the previous albums, and there's a little bit of kind of like corrosive sludge in there as well. But on here it's more blended with the kind of post-metal, so it feels so much bigger on this album. Hyperion has some of those like the kind of Gojira-esque, the pick scrapes
Yeah.
thrown in. Just in case you were unsure of where this band were from, then that'll sort it for you. And then Lead and Silence has a bit more kind of bleak, a kind of more kind of bleaker vibe to it, more akin to maybe like a band like Breach or something like that. But I thought that the last track, Empire, I thought it was an absolute powerhouse of a track. One of my favourites on the album. It's the longest track of the album, just kind of under 8 minutes. But it's the one that I felt they captured the perfect kind of balance of that light and shade. It's got a little bit of a kind of Wilhelmina kind of sludgy darkness to it.
Just stealing notes from me now.
On the heavier parts. But the kind of more post-metal side of it reminded me, not that they sound the same, but remember we reviewed an album by a band called La Fin?
Actually, once, fuck off, Matt. Like, yeah. Like, I was thinking, yes. Oh, yeah. No, I do remember. Like, track 2 on that album. I'm not a listens to one song sort of guy, but track 2 on that one, I fucking adored. And there's about 1 or 2 instances on this album that instantly reminded me of that.
Yeah, I was the same. Yeah, just this kind of scale of it, how kind of grand it sounded, very much reminded me of that. But I think what Death Engine do really well is they cleverly utilise that kind of melodic element, especially on that track. The kind of darkened lead work they've got on that is just so well placed. I felt like that really kind of elevated the track and kind of gives it another layer to kind of pull you in. I think it's the lead work that actually is the icing on the cake for me on that final track. It gave the album a feeling of that kind of like, this is the closer, this is the last track of the album. And then when it finished, it's like, that was only 36 minutes long. I think I might just play that once more.
That's very unusual to get a post-metal album under 40 minutes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
post-metal albums, they can be slightly kind of draining sometimes due to the length, but this doesn't have that effect. Like, it's absolutely brilliant length. It's kind of long enough to make you feel satisfied.
Yep.
But also short enough that you can just give it repeat spins, which is really cool.
They don't do 2 back-to-back really long tracks either.
That's true, yeah.
Which is a very useful tool for post-metal bands out there that are trying to find useful tools. That's a good one. If you've just played like an absolute huge behemoth of a track, put a short one after. Yeah.
True, yeah. Finally, just want to mention the production. I think the production is spot on this album. It's got enough kind of grit in the mix to give it a really unpleasant tone when it needs it, but the melodic side doesn't suffer from it. The guitar tone they've used has a really nice balance that never feels like overpowering. Like a track like Mess, for example, which it toes the line between that like oppressive heaviness and this kind of almost glimmer of uplifting melody. But it never feels watered down. When those lighter parts kicked in, I felt like it still retained that weight, even though the guitars and vocals were delivering something a little more reflective. So hats off to the production team. I think they've done a fantastic job on the production of the album. I think Death Engine have taken their sound to the next level. I think the short break and the renewed lineup has clearly given them a new fire to come back and deliver something more profound and more memorable than before. I think this is their best album to date, personally. What about yourself? What did you think?
So this is, didn't realise this had featured on the old website and the one to look out for category. But I can see why. I mean, we're coming off last year. We're coming off a year which produced in the back half like some of the best post-metal of the decade. Like, honestly, just like generally just like floored me at the quality.
I got my Spotify Wrapped thing came out, obviously. And it gives you your genres and stuff. My number one genre was post-doom metal. Listened to on Spotify. I was like, yep, that's going to be reflective in my end of year list.
Yeah, that's accurate, Spotify. Yes. Well done for 100%. Creating analytics that, deliver chunks of me in bite-sized pieces for the world to see. Thanks. No embarrassment there either. Well done. No. Well done on that one. I've seen some people posting embarrassing things of what they've been listening to, and I'm like that. If you like it, it's not embarrassing. That's the way it is. If you hate it and you listen to it a lot, that's embarrassing. But yeah, so some great post-metal was delivered towards the end of 2022, and Death Ocean are just keeping that momentum running right through into 2023.
Death Engine.
Death, what did I say?
Death Ocean. So Death Engine and Death Ocean.
The name of the band is two small words, like two easy to say small words that you learn as a child. And for some reason, neither one of us can get it right. The album Ocean by Death Engine, it's continuing that right through, which is great. I mean, the first thing that kind of hit me straight away was like it had all the kind of attitude, all the swagger and punch of like something a bit more. It's interesting you say they have a kind of chaotic hardcore background, because there is a little bit of that, but like the kind of, to me it was, once again, and I'm mentioning this band a lot nowadays as well, it must be because I listened to their new album in a couple of weeks or something, but it kind of has like a kind of a vulgarness of early Cancer Bats, but just like what would happen if they were like fucking Nutribullet, alongside like a post-metal album. And like what came out was this album that I think is more through the vocals. The vocalist does not have your stereotypical post-metal tone. It is tinged with a bit more of a kind of snarlier, hardcore kind of vibe. And it gives it personality. It also gives it colour, which, like, once again, post-metal albums tend to lack. Not because their vocalists are limited, it's just it doesn't necessarily fit with the ambience of the album. So I think that's what kind of made me stand out. Obviously the production, like almost instantly you get hit with that bass, and it's so fucking heavy. It's doing the job of like 3 guitars. It's unbelievable. But the guitar work as well, what I love about them is they code switch on things whilst keeping it very contained to the genre. And it's unusual to see, and it's little flurries or a chord choice where you're like, all right, you don't usually hear that on this sort of album, and they just make it very, very easy. You've kind of broken down the tracks. I will say Mess is the standout song for me. I fucking adored it. It's just like so many works and movements, then followed by Empire as well. I think Empire is another one where weirdly like I gravitated towards the longer songs more. The short songs serve a great purpose, but the moments where they almost commit to, right, this is going to be longer, we have more room to explore. I think if this is them moving more in that direction and they chose on the next album to go even longer form, they've got the chops to do it. Not every band can say, I'm writing a 7-minute song. Like it is a gift, and it's an acquired art for musicians to be able to keep a song interesting beyond 3.5 minutes. That, and a listener interested, that's why pop songs are not long, because a lot of people just don't have attention spans that will allow them to be engaged on that length. But they do it really well here. They utilise melody in an interesting way. It's clear the vocalist doesn't have a like resolute, powerful, clean singing voice, so they use techniques smart enough to give you that without compromising the tone of what he delivers. I think that's very smart. I wish more musicians would do that, and just trusting it. As long as you can keep a tone and you're not on an emo band, like sing in tone, scream in tone, like those things with the right guitar underneath it add shades of melody. And the album's got loads of that. Some of the lead work here is fucking great, just for giving you those kind of the underpinning what the rest of the album's doing. I think the production is glorious. I love the drums on this. I absolutely fucking adore them. They're really, really, really punchy, but still feel less quantized, less computer-like, which once again, post-metal can fall into that category. It's not the most, complex drum kind of stylings are playing, but the sound has to be so fucking tight and so punchy to give it gravitas. On this one, it had a bit of grit on it, had a bit of dust on it. I kind of loved that, and it flows really, really well. We're talking about song structure here. They've got it smartly positioned. They give you a statement of intent in the first track. The second track opens up the sound with Lead and Silence. Pull down is a longer track, so we start building on things. We add some more melodies in it. Lack brings things back in. Mess is fucking huge. Dying Alone has like weight and poignance, and then Empire is a work of art. So I think they've got that sussed.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if this is them moving more kind of resolutely into this genre, I think they've hit it. I think they've done really, really well, and it benefits from the fact that it has not the typical post-metal sound. You know what I mean? It's not. It does in terms of the production and the weight of it.
Yeah.
But the fact I think they've organically grown into it is really interesting. The same way that you get those kind of like almost those black metal bands that have kind of elements of kind of darkened melody that ultimately become like folk bands. You know, like over time they adapt their sound and the edges start to fall off, and they find that it seems that Death Engine have went that way as well, but with post metal, and they've arrived at a sound that like delivers. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I still feel like they've got tricks in their bag that I've not heard yet, which I want. Don't want to feel exhausted at the end of an album, and I think it's awesome. Yeah, surprise, surprise, another French metal band that turns out to be great. Quelle surprise, as the French say. It's fucking great. It's really, really punchy, really, really aggressive, angry, snarly, heavy, with hints of melody and really good songwriting. So, I mean, I feel we're spoiled right in this first week of reviewing, but
I know.
It's a hard life being a reviewer, Dave.
It really
hard life.
It really is. Okay, so scores for Ocean by Death Engine. This is a really strong post-metal album. I really like the shift this band have taken from that kind of previous, more chaotic hardcore sound into this, but they're still, keeping a bit of that sound kind of merged in with the post-metal. I think for their first attempt at kind of moving into that genre, I think they've done extremely well here. I think all kind of elements on board with the production, I'd probably go 4.5. I think it's a really strong album, actually. Yeah, I think I'll come back to this quite a lot. What about yourself?
Marginally below you, I'm a 4. I really like this. I think I'm just hoping this kind of post-metal wave just keeps going. I'm loving it. I'm like, when it's done right, and bands seem to be doing it right at the moment. We're on a bit of a renaissance for it. It just sounds...
Yeah,
there's nothing quite like it. You know what I mean? It's really weird to describe. If you have to sit and describe post-metal to someone and pick 4 bands, you could be covering loads of different things, and I kind of love that about this one. It's just another side to already a very strange polygon-shaped, genre, and I think they do it really, really well. They're definitely, I know they're several years into their career now, but to me, they're one to watch. I think they're on the radar now, so it'll be interesting to see where Death Engine take things.
Nice. So that's Death Engine Ocean, out January 13th on Code Records and Throatruiner. I'll put some links below to the band, to the pre-orders. If there's anything, I'll stick them below so you can check them out. Let us know what you think. Have a listen. Stick some comments in below. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Throatruiner is the effect of what death edging causes. I've been at it too long. Right, bye everyone.
That's a good point.